So it only took 4 years for Bob Iger and Roger Goodell to actually work their schedules out so they could actually end up in the same room so they could finally iron out the details of this new ESPN NFL deal, which actually has the NFL network now being solely owned by ESPN, as well as their fantasy football game. Some parts of Scott Hansen, some parts of Scott Hansen's bobblehead, and some parts of the NFL Red Zone channel are now actually owned by ESPN. We will get into all of that on today's edition of the Nat Reports. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh coming to you from the Silicon Valley. This is your sports business daily brief. Our feature stories are certainly this deal, which took so long to actually get done. On the backside of this, I do have some thoughts as well about a potential WNBA strike by the players, which of course makes absolutely no sense for a wide variety of reasons for both the league and the players. But we'll get into that after we cover our feature story of the day. You have to give it to Bob Iger. You have to give it to Roger Goodell for finally getting this deal done. So, as I mentioned, NFL Network, fantasy sports, ESPN also gets 3 additional National Football League games that they get to broadcast across the NFL Network as well as part of this deal on an annual basis. So there are some interesting pieces to this deal. The current value of this deal, as they gave up a 10% equity stake to Roger Goodell in the National Football League, is if we sold that stake today, we could probably get somewhere between $2.5 and $2.8 billion. Just depends how the stock market is flowing at any given time. So this is a hell of a good deal for the National Football League, quite frankly, to actually finally get rid of a piece of property that, quite frankly, they had no desire to actually be in the business of anymore. They also were actually able to hold on to a lot of other pieces of their assets that they wanted to hold on to, which includes NFL Plus, NFL Red Zone digital streaming rights. That's an important one. And of course, the 32 NFL websites that the league currently owns and operates, as well as NFL.com. And of course, a bunch of licensing and NFL Films rights. The NFL still owns those as well. So at the end of the day, what ESPN ultimately walks away with in this particular deal, where they basically ended up giving up or had to pay $2.5 billion for this to actually happen, is they get the NFL Network, they get the fantasy football pieces, they get some additional games. But what they get more than all of that is they get the golden goose opportunity to blur the lines between the National Football League and one of its major television streaming providers in ESPN. And let's not kid ourselves here. The blurring of the lines between the NFL and ESPN is a strategic move by both parties. Now, we know that the National Football League has a contract, has a $111 billion contract, which is set to expire in 2033. We also know that that's not going to happen. They're actually going to go ahead and rip up the contract in 2029, which means the National Football League is going to go back to all of those television networks, all of those streaming services, and basically hold them hostage, with maybe the exception of their deal with ESPN, who is currently paying $2.7 billion a year for the rights to actually broadcast Monday Night Football. So at the end of the day, this deal certainly made a lot of sense for ESPN and certainly made a lot of sense for the National Football League, both from what it acquired from an equity standpoint, as well as what it's potentially going to get down the road when it basically holds all those other television networks and streaming services hostage in an attempt to, God, I don't know. I mean, like, is the NFL going to get $150 billion for an 11-year deal? Are they going to get like $200 billion for their next 11-year deal? I mean, it is big money that the National Football League is swimming in. And this particular move that they made just basically, if you will, clears the runway to actually make things a little bit easier for them in 2029. And I can't believe I'm actually saying that. All right. Love to know your thoughts and opinions on this particular deal. Please go ahead and drop them in when you have a chance. And finally today, just wanted to touch base on some of the rumors around the WNBA and the WNBA players possibly going on strike at some point. And of course, I don't think this is a good idea for the WNBA. I don't think it's a good idea for the players. And I certainly think there is a fair number that the league and the players could actually get to from a salary cap perspective, a number that maybe would double, maybe triple what some of the players are actually making from a salary perspective. Now, I know a lot of you out there see and hear all the news about how the WNBA has been losing money for years. And that is certainly the case. But the way business works is the valuation of the league and the teams tend to actually take more precedent over whether or not a particular team and or league is actually losing money. In other words, why would anybody pay $50 million for a WNBA expansion franchise 1 year in the Golden State Valkyries, and a couple years later pay $250 million for a franchise just a couple years later? Why the discrepancy? What about the Sun, who are potentially going to be sold for, I don't know, it could be $350 to $400 to $500 million, especially if they're able to move the team to Boston. So why the huge jumps in valuation? And we can talk about Caitlin Clark and Sophia Cunningham and the impact that Caitlin and Sophia and others have had on the WNBA over the past 24 months. Another day. Simply to say that the way this actually works is less to do about the money the league's actually losing and more to do about what the value is of the actual teams. So when the players actually get around to thinking about what they're actually going to be negotiating in their next contract, they should be working off of that valuation number. That's the number that the league should also be working off of as well. Those are the important numbers that will actually truly help set what the salary cap should actually be. Now, maybe it's just doubling what players can make today, and maybe they sign a 3-year or 4-year deal just to do that. Maybe it's tripling what the players are making today. But either way, if you look at those valuation numbers, those certainly will help set what the players should and shouldn't make as the league continues to grow. Because remember, everybody wants to see the league grow. The league wants to see the league grow. The teams that paid, $10 million for the right to join the leagues 20 years ago, the teams that just paid $250 million want to see the valuations of their teams double. Everybody wants to see the league grow, and it's all about actually taking into account what somebody is willing to pay for something. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Nat Reports, your daily sports business brief. As always, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.